Have you ever looked up at the night sky and wondered if we're truly alone in the universe? For decades, reports of UFO sightings and strange encounters have fueled speculation about extraterrestrial life.
We saw a bright light appear in the distant western skies, just above the treetops. It changed color, and then it disappeared into the distance.
Fact is, though, a lot of people think they've seen something in the sky. In fact, 16% of Americans.
But what if there was more than just grainy footage and blurry photographs? This video explores evidence that some consider undeniable proof of alien presence. From government documents to eyewitness testimonies, we'll dive into the world of UFOs and ask the question, are we ready to accept the possibility that we're not alone? Rendlesham Forest UFO Incident, nicknamed Britain's Roswell. The Rendlesham Forest UFO incident of 1980 remains one of the most intriguing and well-documented cases of unexplained aerial phenomena in the United Kingdom. Unlike the grainy footage and whispered rumors that often surround UFO sightings, this event unfolded on a legitimate military base with trained personnel as witnesses. The drama began on a cold December night in 1980. It was just past 3 a.m. when two U.S. Air Force servicemen stationed at the nearby RAF Woodbridge base, eyes adjusting to the darkness, were startled by a flash of light streaking across the sky. According to their official report, the light descended rapidly towards Rendlesham Forest. Unable to ignore the possibility of a downed aircraft, the servicemen, along with security personnel, set out into the dense forest to investigate. As they ventured deeper into the trees, their flashlights pierced the dark undergrowth, revealing an even more perplexing sight. A metallic object, unlike anything they had ever seen, hovered amongst the trees. It pulsed with an otherworldly light, seemingly defying the laws of physics as it moved with an unexpected agility. The servicemen, trained and prepared for many scenarios, were left speechless. Had they stumbled upon a crashed alien craft? News of the sighting spread quickly, reaching local authorities who arrived shortly after. However, their search yielded no sign of the object the servicemen described. The only light visible in the night sky was the steady beam from the Orfordness Lighthouse, which was a familiar landmark on the distant coast. Yet another curious detail emerged. Upon closer inspection, the officers found strange markings on the ground near the reported sighting location. These indentations, unlike any animal tracks they had encountered, deepened the mystery. Days later, another group of servicemen ventured back into the forest. This time, their attention was captured by an entirely different phenomenon. High in the night sky, they reported seeing three brilliant lights far surpassing the usual twinkling of stars. The lights moved in an erratic fashion, unlike any aircraft they were familiar with. They also remained visible for hours, silently hanging in the inky blackness. The Rendlesham Forest incident has continued to spark debate for decades. Astronomers and other researchers have attempted to explain the sightings away as natural phenomena, bright stars mistaken for falling objects, and animal activity responsible for the ground markings. However, the servicemen who witnessed the events firsthand have remained steadfast in their accounts. They insist that what they saw that night in December 1980 was unlike anything they had ever encountered before. Something far beyond the ordinary. The Salem photograph. August 3, 1952, dawned like any other day in Salem, Massachusetts. The town, steeped in history and whispers of the supernatural, seemed to go about its business as usual. However, on this particular morning, the tranquil skies above Salem were about to be disrupted by an event that would spark debate and intrigue for decades to come. Shell Alpert, a Coast Guard photographer stationed at the Salem Coast Guard Air Station, found himself staring at a baffling spectacle that sent a jolt through him. Four objects, unlike anything he had ever witnessed before, were hovering serenely over Winter Island and Cat Cove. These weren't your typical airplanes or birds. They emitted an otherworldly glow that captivated Alpert's attention. Instinct taking over, Alpert did what any curious and responsible observer would do. He grabbed his camera. Through the lens, he captured what would become a photograph that continues to baffle and ignite discussions even today. The resulting image depicted the four unidentified objects against the clear blue canvas of the sky. The details of the objects themselves were somewhat blurry, but their presence was undeniable. News of the photograph spread like wildfire, igniting a firestorm of speculation. Was it a genuine image of extraterrestrial visitors, or something more mundane? While some explanations focused on a more earthly origin for the objects, perhaps weather balloons or experimental aircraft, others were convinced they were witnessing proof of alien visitation. The photograph resonated with a growing trend in the 1950s, a period marked by a surge in UFO sightings across the globe. The Salem photograph became part of this larger phenomenon. However, skepticism soon followed. Critics pointed out the possibility that the objects in the photograph were simply reflections or lens flares caused by the camera or the window through which the picture was taken. The lack of further information about the sighting and the photograph itself only fueled the debate. Despite the controversy, the Salem photograph remains an intriguing piece of UFO history. The Kinross incident. If you thought close encounters with unidentified objects were relegated to science fiction movies, think again. In November 1953, a real-life encounter unfolded over the vast expanse of the Great Lakes, blurring the lines between reality and the extraordinary. It all began with a blaring alarm at a radar station in Michigan. Radio operators, tasked with safeguarding the restricted airspace bordering the United States and Canada, detected a blip. The implications were clear. Something unauthorized was where it shouldn't be. Taking immediate action, officials at Kinross Air Force Base scrambled a fighter jet to investigate the unidentified target. The pilot, alongside his radar operator, took to the skies to identify and potentially intercept the unknown object. From the ground, air traffic controllers monitored the situation with bated breath. On their radar screens, they witnessed a tense game of cat and mouse unfold. The blip representing the fighter jet steadily closed the distance between itself and the unidentified object. On the ground, controllers watched in disbelief as the two blips on the screen moved closer and closer still. Then, in a scene that seemed ripped from a movie, the blips appeared to merge into one. A collective gasp echoed through the control room. Had the two crafts collided? Were they witnessing a mid-air disaster? However, the story didn't end there. The merged blip, defying all logic, continued moving not toward American airspace but deeper into Canadian territory. The fighter plane, on the other hand, simply vanished from the radar. Radio calls to the pilot and his crew went unanswered. A frantic search and rescue operation was launched, with Canadian authorities joining the effort. But their efforts were met with a disheartening reality. No trace of the missing fighter plane or its crew was ever found. The vast expanse of the Great Lakes offered no clues, no wreckage, no answers. The Kinross incident, as it came to be known, ignited a firestorm of speculation. Some whispered about a malfunction causing the fighter to crash, while others entertained the outlandish notion that the Kinross plane was somehow swallowed up by the unidentified craft, which then simply vanished without a trace. Till today, the Kinross incident remains an unsolved mystery. Abducted by aliens in Wyoming. Stories of people getting abducted by aliens seem like something you would see in a movie. Bright lights, strange beings, and a complete loss of time. But in 1974, Carl Higdon, a hunter in Wyoming, had an experience that would forever alter his life. It all began on a seemingly ordinary day in Medicine Bow National Forest. Carl was stalking his prey, an elk, through the dense woods. He lined up the shot, fired his rifle, and something extraordinary happened. The bullet seemed to defy the laws of physics, moving in slow motion before disappearing into the distance. Confused and intrigued, Carl ventured to retrieve his bullet, a chill creeping down his spine as an unsettling feeling washed over him as he turned. A sight ripped straight from science fiction met his eyes. Towering over him was a humanoid figure easily exceeding 6 feet in height. This being resembled nothing Carl had ever encountered. It was clad in a dark, skin-tight jumpsuit and also sported a wide belt adorned with a peculiar symbol, a 6-pointed star with a yellow emblem in the center. The figure possessed unsettling features: straight hair defying gravity, an absence of eyebrows, and oddly bowed legs. Its long arms ended in appendages resembling metallic rods rather than hands. The encounter took an even stranger turn when the being spoke. Its voice was emotionless and monotone. It inquired if Carl was hungry and offered him 4 pills. It claimed that consuming just one would stave off hunger for 4 days. Without warning, the humanoid pointed at Carl. In the blink of an eye, he found himself trapped within a transparent cylindrical device, his head encased in a helmet. 2 more figures materialized, carrying the 5 elk Carl had previously hunted. But something was off. The elk were rigid and frozen in an unnatural state. The beings, through a form of telepathic communication, informed him of their intention to take him to their home planet, which was 163,000 light-years away. The journey, he claimed, happened instantaneously in a blinding flash. Upon arrival, he described a landscape dominated by towering structures similar to the Seattle Space Needle and bathed in the harsh glow of an intensely hot sun. The next thing he knew, Carl found himself back in Medicine Bow Park, disoriented and shaken. 2.5 hours had inexplicably gone by. His truck, which he had left near the hunting grounds, was nowhere to be seen. Stumbling through the darkness, he finally found it 3 miles away. Exhausted, Carl made his way to the nearest radio and contacted the local sheriff. When they found him near midnight, he was a wreck, babbling about being abducted and his stolen elk. After he was taken to the local hospital for evaluation, a series of baffling medical anomalies emerged. Doctors discovered his vitamin levels had inexplicably skyrocketed. Perhaps even more baffling, X-rays revealed his lungs, previously riddled with tuberculosis scars, were now completely clear. As if to corroborate Higdon's story, his wife and 2 other witnesses reported seeing strange green and red lights streaking across the sky on the night of his alleged abduction. The Carl Higdon incident remains an enigma, a case that continues to fuel debate and intrigue, blurring the line between reality and the realm of the fantastical. The unforgettable UFO encounter of Reverend Gill. Back in 1959, a report emerged that sent shivers down the spines of extraterrestrial enthusiasts. This report was a first-hand account by Reverend William Booth Gill, an Anglican missionary stationed in Papua New Guinea. It all began on a seemingly ordinary day when Reverend Gill noticed a peculiar sight in the sky, a sparkling object that defied explanation. He wasn't alone in his observation. Around 30 other witnesses, presumably fellow missionaries or villagers, shared his gaze. The Reverend, a man of faith and meticulous nature, decided to take action. He spent the next 4 hours documenting the object's movements, jotting down notes as the light danced across the sky. The initial spectacle was captivating enough, but the event took a strange turn after roughly 45 minutes. The sparkling object, which Reverend Gill later referred to as a mothership, vanished briefly, only to reappear later. This time, it wasn't alone. 3 smaller objects, seemingly tethered to the larger one, accompanied its return. The night sky had transformed into a scene straight out of science fiction. The spectacle intensified as the mothership emitted a beam of otherworldly blue light. The light grew more intense, and the craft descended. It dipped low enough for Reverend Gill to distinctly see 4 figures standing atop the vessel. These weren't vague, shadowy outlines. He described them as alien figures. When rain began to fall, the larger craft and its smaller companions finally retreated from sight. The following night, however, they returned. The mothership reappeared, and the 4 figures were once again visible. This time they raised their appendages in a gesture that Reverend Gill interpreted as a wave. Without hesitation, he waved back. The credibility of the witness, a respected religious figure, compelled the Australian government to take the incident seriously. They launched an official investigation, no doubt hoping to unravel the mystery. Their conclusion, however, offered a more conventional explanation. The phenomena likely had a natural origin, and the perceived human shapes could be attributed to variations in cloud formations. While a diplomatic explanation, it left a fair amount to be desired, particularly for those who believed Reverend Gill's account. The Reverend himself remained unconvinced by the official explanation. He clung to his belief that he had witnessed something extraordinary. This encounter, he believed, was a pivotal moment in his life. He dedicated much of his remaining years to sharing his story, writing a guide based on his experiences, ensuring that his encounter with the unknown wouldn't be easily forgotten. Astronauts' close encounters. When it comes to UFO sightings, there is a certain weight given to the reports of astronauts, the men and women who have ventured beyond our atmosphere and gazed upon the vastness of space. These are, after all, highly trained individuals with a wealth of experience observing celestial objects. Interestingly, a handful of astronauts have come forward with their own UFO encounters, adding fuel to the fire of the extraterrestrial debate. Among them is Edgar Mitchell, a lunar module pilot on Apollo 14. Mitchell has spoken openly about his belief in alien intelligence and even government knowledge of their existence. Similarly, Katie Coleman, a veteran of 5 space missions, has recounted experiences that some interpret as potential UFO sightings. Dr. Brian O'Leary, a former NASA scientist-astronaut, adds another layer to the conversation. He has not only reported his own UFO encounters, but has also been a vocal advocate for openness regarding potential extraterrestrial contact. Perhaps the most well-known astronaut UFO story comes from Buzz Aldrin, the second person to walk on the moon during the Apollo 11 mission. Aldrin has described an experience where he and his crewmates observed an unidentified object flying alongside their spacecraft. Initially, they believed it might be the discarded Saturn V rocket stage, a logical explanation considering the mission sequence. However, their theory was quickly debunked by Mission Control, who confirmed the object was 6,000 miles away. This detail adds a layer of mystery to Aldrin's account, leaving room for interpretation and speculation. The reports from these astronauts, while not offering definitive proof of extraterrestrial life, do lend a certain credibility to the UFO phenomenon. Their accounts continue to spark debate and intrigue, leaving the question lingering: are we truly alone in the universe? The metallic alien. The early days of UFO sightings were dominated by reports of encounters with strange humanoid beings. However, by 1973, the narrative seemed to take a shift. In that year, a small-town police chief named Jeff Greenhaw found himself at the center of a bizarre incident. It all began with a phone call. A frantic woman reported seeing strange lights descend and land near the town. Ever the responsible officer, Greenhaw decided to investigate. Before leaving, he grabbed his camera and his service weapon. Upon arriving at the reported location, Greenhaw found nothing out of the ordinary under the blanket of night. Yet, as a police officer, he remained cautious. He opted to take a dirt road near the reported landing site, his headlights cutting through the darkness. Suddenly, the beams illuminated a figure walking in an unusual, almost unnatural manner. Concern flickered across Greenhaw's mind. Perhaps the individual was injured and needed assistance. He pulled his vehicle alongside the figure, getting a clearer look. What he saw sent a jolt through him. The figure was clad in a metallic suit, an alien material that seemed to emit an otherworldly glow. This wasn't a human. It was something else entirely. Greenhaw then attempted communication. He called out, inquiring about the figure's well-being, but there was no response. Faced with the unexpected, Greenhaw then reached for his camera and began to take pictures. The flash from the camera seemed to trigger a reaction. The metallic figure, as if startled, abruptly bolted into the night, disappearing with a burst of what Greenhaw described as inhuman speed. The encounter left him shaken but determined. He had documented something extraordinary, something unexplainable. The photographs Greenhaw captured that night would become a central piece of the case. Experts examined them, scrutinizing every detail. Their verdict was that the photos were authentic. An even more intriguing detail emerged during the examination process. The negatives contained faint images of unidentified flying object-like shapes, objects not visible in the developed prints. Unfortunately for Greenhaw, reporting such an extraordinary encounter came at a heavy cost. Cynics within the community dismissed his story as a mere prank, a fabrication concocted out of boredom. The mysterious woman who had initially alerted him remained unidentified, further fueling the flames of doubt. The fallout was swift and devastating. He was fired from his job, his marriage crumbled, and his home was destroyed in a mysterious fire. Despite the personal toll, Greenhaw remained steadfast in his story. He continued to keep a watchful eye over his community, forever marked by the encounter with the metallic figure and the lingering question: what truly transpired on that dark night? The truth, as they say, might be out there, but for Chief Greenhaw, the experience came at a heavy price. Now it's time for today's subscriber's pick. You wanted to see if there's any proof of aliens out there, and well, some people on the dark web sure think they have it. This image, which is said to have been found on the dark web, is supposedly a photo of an alien being. The photo, circulating under the headline, "Warning, Alien Photos Just Found on the Dark Web Prove Their Existence," shows the head and shoulders of a humanoid figure with large black eyes and smooth, hairless skin. The image is grainy, blurry, and frankly a little creepy. Of course, there's no way to verify the authenticity of this image. It could be a hoax, a clever bit of Photoshop work, or even a costume. But that doesn't mean it isn't interesting to look at. What do you think? Does this image change your mind about the possibility of alien life? Let us know in the comments below. Bizarre sightings in Washington, D.C. The summer of 1952 ushered in a wave of sightings that would forever be etched in UFO lore. It all began on July 19th at Ronald Reagan National Airport, which was then known as Washington National Airport. Air traffic controllers witnessed something unsettling. Their radar screens, normally a predictable display of scheduled air traffic, flickered with unexpected blips. These weren't routine commercial flights or military aircraft following established flight paths. They were something entirely different. The objects detected on the radar moved with speeds that defied explanation. One moment they would appear on the screen, and in the blink of an eye, they would vanish or change course abruptly. This erratic movement made them impossible to track using conventional radar technology. The controllers, understandably alarmed, contacted their superiors. Word of the unidentified aircraft quickly spread through military channels, escalating the situation. The following weekend, the phenomenon intensified. Eyewitness accounts began flooding in from various sources. Ordinary citizens, airline crew members who were supposed to be focused on safe passage, and even trained military personnel, all reported seeing strange lights streaking across the night sky. These weren't your typical airplane lights, mind you. These lights moved with an erraticism and a speed that defied conventional understanding. The sheer volume of reports, coupled with the diverse backgrounds of the witnesses, created a national frenzy. Newspapers blared headlines about flying saucers and alien invasion. Anxiety gripped the population, and emergency services were overwhelmed with calls reporting UFO sightings. Faced with a situation spiraling out of control, the Air Force felt compelled to take action. They decided to hold a press conference, the largest one held since World War II. This high-profile event aimed to address the public's concerns and explain the mysterious activity in the skies above D.C. However, the explanation offered by the Air Force fell short of satisfying the public's curiosity. They attributed the sightings to a mundane mix of celestial phenomena, stars, meteors, and even atmospheric conditions like temperature inversions that could potentially distort radar signals. The Washington, D.C. UFO incident of 1952 remains a landmark event, highlighting the enduring public fascination with the unexplained and the enduring questions about what, if anything, might lurk in the vast expanse of space. UFO above Mount Rainier. In 1947, the skies above Mount Rainier in Washington became the stage for a sighting that would forever be etched in UFO lore. Two commercial airline pilots, with years of experience in identifying aircraft, witnessed something unlike anything they had ever encountered before. Their shared account described a series of disc-shaped objects, flying at speeds far exceeding anything known at the time. Leading the formation was a singular, much larger saucer, guiding a squadron of 4 smaller ones. The pilots watched in stunned fascination as the first group soon vanished over the horizon, only to be replaced by another group appearing from the opposite direction. For 15 minutes, the pilots maintained visual contact with the strange objects. One particularly noteworthy detail was that the unconventional craft left no contrails, the telltale streaks of condensed water vapor that typically trail behind jet aircraft. Despite the unnerving nature of the encounter, the pilots reported no hostile actions from the supposed alien craft. One of the pilots offered a theory. While acknowledging the objects defied explanation, he proposed the possibility that they were cutting-edge experimental aircraft developed by the government in a facility. This explanation, while seemingly plausible, did little to quell the sense of awe and intrigue surrounding the sighting. The other pilot remained more open-ended in his assessment. He was unsure of the origin or purpose of the objects. However, the detailed descriptions provided by the pilots became a cornerstone of UFO sightings and fueled discussions about extraterrestrial visitation for decades to come. Westall UFO. Under the clear Australian sky on April 6, 1966, a quiet morning at Westall High School in Melbourne was shattered by something extraordinary. Around 11 a.m., the ordinary gave way to the inexplicable as an unidentified flying object materialized in the schoolyard. Over 200 students, along with several teachers, became captivated witnesses to this unfolding spectacle. The UFO, a sight unlike anything they had ever seen before, descended from the sky and hovered ominously over a nearby field. For an extended period, estimated to be around 20 minutes, the object held its position, a silent sentinel under the watchful gaze of hundreds of bewildered observers. Descriptions of the UFO painted a vivid picture. Witnesses reported it to be a metallic gray, saucer-shaped craft, and they placed its size at roughly twice that of a typical family car. The sudden appearance of the UFO in a controlled airspace naturally raised questions about its origin. Authorities were quick to rule out any conventional explanations. Commercial and private air traffic was absent from the area at the time, and the Royal Australian Air Force confirmed they had no aircraft operating in the vicinity. Explanations centered around earthly phenomena soon surfaced. One theory proposed that the object was merely a weather balloon. It was a mundane explanation that was quickly dismissed by the eyewitnesses. Their detailed and consistent accounts left little room for a misidentified balloon. The Australian Skeptics, a group dedicated to rational explanations for paranormal phenomena, offered an alternative theory. The UFO might have been a prototype military craft, perhaps similar to the nylon target drogues used for RAAF training exercises. However, this theory, too, hit a dead end. The RAAF stepped in to clarify that they weren't conducting any exercises in that airspace at the time of the sighting. Korea's centuries-old UFO incident. This time, we travel back in time, not to the era of jet fighters and radar screens, but to a period far removed from our modern understanding of the skies. September 22nd, 1609. The setting, Gangwon Province, a tranquil region in Korea. On this particular day, a sequence of events unfolded that would be documented in the official historical record of Korea, and it involved a wave of unidentified flying object sightings. The first reports emerged from Goseong, a city bordering the East Sea. Between roughly 9 and 11 a.m., witnesses looked skyward in astonishment. They described a peculiar sight, an object likened to a halo or a wash basin, hovering serenely against the sky. News of this celestial spectacle spread quickly, traveling by word of mouth through the close-knit communities of the region. The sightings didn't end in Goseong. The unidentified aerial phenomenon appeared to drift eastward, reaching Chuncheon County by around 11 a.m. Here, the descriptions mirrored those from Goseong, with witnesses providing strikingly similar details about the object's appearance and movement. As the day wore on, the sightings reached a point of undeniable significance. Reports reached Yangyang County, a place of administrative importance. Among those who witnessed the phenomenon was Moonwee Kim, a high-ranking government official. Kim's social standing and position of authority added a layer of weight to the situation. It was highly unlikely that such a respected figure would fabricate a story about an unidentified object in the sky. The fact that these sightings occurred centuries before the age of widespread communication, telephones, internet, and social media further strengthens their credibility. It makes the possibility of mass hysteria or copycat accounts highly unlikely. So, what was it that captivated the attention of so many, including a high-ranking government official, on that September day in 1609? The answer, unfortunately, remains a mystery lost to time. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.